to introduce to you Marie Stroughter, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. The traditional bio for Marie Stroughter would be loving wife to hubby for over 25 years, and homeschooling mom to 3 adorable children and 1 spunky cat. Getting a little bolder would be to say that she is an adoptive mom of 2, blogger, podcaster, and former freelance writer and copy editor. Unique factoids might include social media addict, maven, avid knitter, founding mama of her local knitting guild, and a devotee of all things gadgety. The rabble-rousing version would read, Marie Stroughter is the activist mom turned co-founder of African American Conservatives and the opinionated, no-holds-bar host of the African American Conservatives radio show carried on Blog Talk Radio, and from the Right Radio, where she chats weekly with political movers and shakers like Karl Rove, Steve Forbes, Michelle Malkin, Representatives Michelle Bachmann and Alan West, Donald Rumsfeld, Ambassador John Bolton, Newt Gingrich, Senator Jim DeMint, and other conservatives all-star and rising stars, in addition to her contributor status with Breitbart.com and the iVillage, hashtag iVoices, and hashtag iVote projects. But the latter would be a run-on sentence, so we'll just stick with the others. So here is Marie Stroughter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've heard the stories time and again on the news. A vibrant, pregnant woman, ripe with new life, only to be cut down, child ripped from her womb. And when we hear such stories, we let out a collective gasp because of the brutality, the inhumanity, and the savage disregard for human life. We don't understand the depravity that would cause a mind to commit such a heinous atrocity. Yet when the child is willingly sacrificed, when the mother opts to allow someone to use tools that kill and end that unborn child's life, well, this is called choice. And this was merely a clump of cells, products of conception, or a fetus. We have to use these euphemistic terms because the reality is brutal, it is ugly, and it is savage. Similar to our inability to figure out which bathroom to use, we are perplexed by basic biological science. 2 simple concepts. 1, a living cell, fertilized by another living cell, produces something that is living. And if those 2 cells are human, what they've created is also human. If there is a body inside of my own body, if there's a body inside of my own body that moves of its own volition, eats of its own volition, creates waste matter of its own volition, and does so in a way that I have no control over, how can I say, my body, my choice? One body is mine for sure, but the other body is a separate, distinct entity with its own brain, heartbeat, and organs. If I offer you a drink of this, but there's a drop of poison in it, will you drink it? But most of it's clean, healthy, good for you even. Why wouldn't you drink it? Because of the poison? But it's just 1 drop. We all understand this. So why don't we understand this with Planned Parenthood? Oh, but we offer health services, screenings, contraception. Really? Because Planned Parenthood is deceptive in its statistical practices, engaging in something known as unbundling, wherein each encounter can and is recorded multiple times, depending on the reason for the visit. In other words, I may come in for a pap smear and yet receive contraceptives. Thus, my visit is counted as 2 separate units. However, one thing is certain, according to factcheck.org, Heritage, and other outlets. The claim that Planned Parenthood makes about its abortion services is false. They state their abortion services account for only 3% But when adjusted for their unbundling fudging, it's more like 12%. And in recent years, fewer are seeking these ancillary services available elsewhere in the community, yet their rate of performing abortions is increasing. Why do they unbundle? To make it appear that these services, these other services, other than abortion, are being sought more so. To make the abortion number appear smaller, because they know it is unpalatable to the taxpayers they seek funding from. According to Gallup, the majority of Americans still disfavor abortion. Another frequently heard cry is, what about cases of rape or incest? My response is, what about adoption? An innocent person is victimized through no fault of their own. This applies to the person raped as well as to the child conceived and aborted through this crime. Why would an innocent victim who has been brutalized then brutalize another innocent victim? One argument offered is, why make the victim bear the burden of this brutal act against them? One, will aborting the child rather than placing him or her for adoption erase the thought of the crime? Will the nightmares cease? Just because there is no tangible reminder of in the form of a child, will the nightmares cease? Will the person never again think of the rape? Secondly, why are the innocent punished for the crimes of the guilty? If I'm angry at my boss and I come home and beat my kids or kick the dog, is it right or fair that I come home and beat my kids or kick the dog? And assuming I do, does that fix things with my boss? As with much of human nature, greed and other elements of a very sick underbelly come to the fore. As we've recently seen from the grisly Gosnell debacle to the undercover videos that have surfaced indicting Planned Parenthood, abortion is ugly business. But make no mistake, it is business. From the unsanitary practices revealed in the Gosnell scandal to his brutal participation in partial birth abortions and late-term abortions, his love of money was at the root of his evil. No less is the case for the so-called non-profit Planned Parenthood with its sales of harvested organs and tissues. Cecile Richards, CEO of Planned Parenthood, admitted under oath in 2014 her organization had $127 million in excess funds. Her organization had these funds after expenses. TheHill.com editorialized and stated that this is what normal people call a profit. Further, Ms. Richards also admitted that Planned Parenthood spent $40 million per year on travel and parties. That translates to $13,000 per day. In these undercover videos, Planned Parenthood executives are seen dining in upscale venues with Chianti and laughing about Lamborghinis, a car with a base price in the neighborhood of $200,000. Let's not forget Planned Parenthood's humble beginnings as the Negro Project, headed by racist eugenicist Margaret Sanger. Going back to the cup with the drop of poison in it, some may see their other services provided by Planned Parenthood and totally overlook the poison that it was founded upon to reduce undesirable populations. Margaret Sanger is quoted as saying the United States should adopt a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to that grade of population whose progeny is already tainted, whose inheritance is such that objectionable traits may be transmitted to offspring. Another eye-opening quote, birth control must ultimately lead to a cleaner race. And while we're parked here, let us note that Ms. Sanger gave a speech to the Ku Klux Klan and stated that she received many such invitations from them to speak. Further, she was a member of the American Eugenics Society and was involved with the Euthanasia Society. She praised Nazi Germany for their sterilization policies influenced by her work. Further, she asked, what is social planning without a quota? Margaret Sanger is further quoted as saying, eugenists emphasize the mating of healthy couples for the conscious purpose of producing healthy children, the sterilization of the unfit to prevent their populating the world with their kind, and may perhaps agree with us that contraception is a necessary measure among the masses of workers. Ms. Sanger advanced something called the American Baby Code, in which she wrote, "The results desired are obviously selective births." Additionally, this code would protect society against the propagation and increase of the unfit. She also said birth control itself, often denounced as a violation of natural law, is nothing more or less than the facilitation of the process of weeding out the unfit, of preventing the birth of defectives or of those who will become defectives. Since Planned Parenthood clinics are disproportionately located in low-income and or minority communities, to whom do you think she refers to as unfit, undesirable, defective, and other such pejorative and derogatory terms? Unconvinced? Let this quote from Ms. Sanger seal the deal. "We should hire three or four colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is just the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." Planned Parenthood was founded upon a racial discrimination and prejudice that continues to this day, evidenced by the fact that they prey on minorities and the low income. Unfit, defective, undesirable. That's what they think of people who look like me, and people who look like some of you, and our children that they so desperately not want only to kill, but to profit from doing so. Planned Parenthood, we reject your racist eugenicist roots. We reject your help in controlling our population. We reject your bloodthirst for our children. I leave you with the words of Proverbs 6:16 through 19, words that eerily echo all that Planned Parenthood is and stands for. "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. And a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers." Thank you, and may God bless our children, including those in the womb.